Hey everybody, what does Hurricane Helene and Home Inspections have in common? Well, I can't wait to tell you. And before you cynics want to criticize me and say I'm taking advantage of somebody's pain, that is the furthest thing from the truth. The truth is, I was inspired, I saw a teaching moment, and was motivated to create a little presentation here. Scott Patterson, a friend of mine, had reposted something from somebody who explained how this massive flooding occurred. And that's where I saw the parallel. Let me explain. What this post talked about was you had a massive quantity of rain come from above, right? The terrain is such that it's not flat, but you have a lot of mountains. So you have all this quantity of rain coming down, all this water, and it is directed towards the streams and rivers and ponds and all that. And because of the quantity, it rose and caused the massive flooding. How does that parallel with the home inspections? Well, let me show you here. So when land is raw and the rain comes down, the raindrop hits right there. Then the next raindrop and the next raindrop, and it continues to hit the land, but it's got a place to go. It will start to percolate through the soil. This is the natural function of the earth, right? Then when we start to take away some of this area, okay, in other words, we start to build impervious surfaces and buildings and things like that, we start to take away a certain percentage of that area. Now the land no longer has the same quantity of raw land to absorb the water, if that makes sense. So on a larger scale, in a city type scale, a regional type scale, the rain is going to come, right? That's God. We know that's going to happen, so we have to manage it. We have all these impervious surfaces, we have these buildings, the rain is going to come, and then we just manage the water and direct it. That's how it is handled on a larger scale. For home inspections, of course, we have to think of the house, and you'll see a small basic house here, and you see all the arrows, the pointing of which way the grade is going. So the water is going to come, and we just want to manage that water away from the structure. Now on a home inspection, you have to consider not just the home that you're on, but you're going to have to consider adjoining properties as well, right? Because one can affect another. Now the Big Book of Rules also states for us that the water should slope or the grade should slope away from the structure. That's why we have those rules in place. So let's take a real example. Here's a couple buildings, and you see we've got a lot of concrete, asphalt, we've got these buildings, so you are reducing the amount of raw land that can absorb water, correct? So let's take a look from above. This is a satellite view of those buildings. Now there's a certain square footage, and we can measure that, of the land that is taken away. And in this case, we have sloping roofs that go towards each other. So if you can go to Google Earth Pro, and there's a tool in there where you can click on the polygon and then measure it. So this area right here where these two come together, I'm not worried about, this is just a tiny little rear entry area. I'm not even worried about that. But this area that I've highlighted, we can measure that and let's call it 4,000 square feet. That's a lot of square feet that is accepting rain that falls, and it funnels it all to one place, right in between these roofs. Okay, so that's 4,000 square feet of water, and depending on the rate of the rain, the longevity of the storm, etc., makes it worse and worse and worse, right? So that roof on the left is this roof right here, this metal roof, and you can see it comes down into a gutter. All that water runs down into that gutter in between, and then the roof to the right also comes down there, and that roof to the right is this picture here, and it's the same thing. The water comes down. Now you can see that they have a gutter in there, but how well do you think that gutter performs over time? If you guessed not very well, you're right. So this is the back portion of that gutter that has been there for so many years, and you can't fix it. It's impossible, literally impossible to fix this thing because it's wedged down in between these two buildings that are almost touching. So what does that mean? You have a lot of that water funneled down to a very small 6-inch wide and whatever that was, 30 feet long area. So you reduce 4,000 square feet to just a few square feet. And how that impacts the structures is like this. This is what it looked like from the attic. Water was continually pounding that year after year after year, and now you've got some significant damage. Not so much in this picture, but check these out. If you look at the upper left picture, this is OSB plywood, heavily stained, heavily damaged. This side, that is the back side of the stucco. In other words, the OSB is completely gone, disintegrated. It no longer exists. It's been happening for so long. The dark gray is the water that's coming down and saturating that stucco. This here, you can see the raindrops falling down, and I'll show you a video here in just a second because it happened to be raining the day I was there. So it has literally just consumed that plywood, no longer exists.
So earlier, this wall was coming up as a big anomaly?
So earlier, this wall was coming up as a big anomaly, and above that, that's where the water is literally raining inside there, inside that attic. I've got anomalies on that wall, this wall, all the way down the hallway. Now let me show you. This wall is one of those, it's a restaurant area or a kitchen area, and it's that plastic, those plastic sheets, I don't know what those are called, but even though it's not the best product to give me the best emissivity when it comes to using infrared, I'm still getting large anomalies because of that thermal influence. So I could see it all over the wall, and wait till you see what happens when I touch this wall.
So the infrared is identifying anomalies on this whole wall area here, and not only do I have
so I can put the moisture meter on it and establish a normal, and then some places are maxing out at 99.9%.
This,
but you see when I touch the wall,
the first time I did that, I can hear a lot of debris falling down in the wall. So I don't know how bad it is on the inside.
The wall gives, and I can audibly hear debris falling down the wall when I touch it like that. So not only do we have the damage above that I can see from the attic, but I have concealed damages that I cannot see nor quantify. So let's look at how grading and drainage perform similarly. Water management is critical around houses. When you can't manage the water, bad things happen, right? So in a scenario like this, where it's painfully obvious, okay, some conditions aren't as obvious, but my point is, so you look at this and recognize it and think about it on your inspections. Gravity is pretty predictable, right? All the water is going to be directed towards the home. And on a slab-on-grade type of construction, you have something called slab edge capillarity. So you're holding this big concrete rock underwater, and it is a porous rock. So that rock or that foundation will actually experience, just like putting a napkin in a glass of water. You have that capillarity, that water action that is absorbed, and it does the same thing. So on the interior, you can have a beautiful looking wall and floor like this and not even know that you have damage. Now here's where I pull the carpet back, and chronic water intrusion and slab edge capillarity has caused it to wick into the subfloor, in this case tack strip and carpet underlayment and that kind of thing, and now we've got some nasty fungal growth, and this has just been a chronic condition. So a lot of times these conditions are not visible. These top two images here are prying the baseboard back for reasons that I can explain later, but I pulled that back because I saw anomalies and I've got some extensive fungal growth. So what does that look like inside the walls? You never know. You never know how bad it is inside the walls. So that's how Hurricane Helene parallels home inspections. So hopefully with these visuals, you'll have that in your head and you will be the home inspector badass that you were meant to be.